Good afternoon. I'm Carol Meekins coming to you from my home during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Hi, Carol, and I'm Charles Benson. Thanks for joining us. A month ago, we started what we're calling the Rebound Milwaukee. The idea is to help you make it to the other side of this pandemic.
And really, our goal is to offer resources to make ends meet, get back to work, and manage the pressure.
Today, on a special 30-minute edition of the Rebound Milwaukee, a looming deadline creating pressure for renters and landlords in the state, many of whom lost jobs and became unemployed, unable to pay bills. When COVID hit, Governor Tony Evers ordered a moratorium on evictions so people could stay in their homes during the health crisis. That moratorium ends on Tuesday, meaning landlords can begin the eviction process on the thousands of renters across Wisconsin. Today, though, we're offering resources to those potentially facing eviction and to landlords caught in the middle. We brought in several experts to explain your rights as a renter and a landlord. From late fees to move-out orders, they'll also talk about financial help you can take advantage of right now.
But first, let's address the problem. 590,000 Wisconsinites filed for unemployment since March 15th. Now, to put that into perspective, that's the population of the city of Milwaukee. We have never had numbers that high. That record number is creating a housing crisis. Now, before COVID hit, Milwaukee County averaged 1,000 eviction filings a month. But by June, that number could be 2,000 to 4,000. That's a number we have not seen since the Great Recession of 2008. There are several organizations in the city and county and the state working around the clock to make sure you have the help you need to navigate through these tough times.
So joining us today to talk about this is Colleen Foley of the Legal Aid Society of Milwaukee and Mike Baer of Community Advocates.
Thank you both for making time to be with us and help people this afternoon. Colleen, would you like to start with you? The moratorium actually ends on Tuesday, so now tell us what that means for someone who's been unable to pay their rent.
I think
We apologize, Colleen. We'll get back to you in just a little bit, but let's move on.
I think I'm back.
There we go.
Oh, good. Okay.
Can you hear me now? Apologies.
Very good. Very good. That's okay.
So first and foremost, what it means is that residents have a legal right to their day in court. So though they may have received a 5 or 14-day notice for inability to pay rent either before the March 27th eviction ban or when the state ban concludes this Tuesday, they are entitled. The 5 or 14-day notice doesn't mean that they move out. It means that there's a court procedure. They'll be served with a summons and complaint, and they have the right to appear in court. And we encourage people to do so and to defend their rights. I also wanted to mention that there are two separate bans at play. The first is the statewide ban with Governor Evers' Executive Order 15 that was in place effective March 27th through this Tuesday, May 26th. There is a separate federal ban under the CARES Act that's for federally backed properties and mortgages, as well as certain housing programs. That gives tenants an additional 2 months through July 25th. However, it's tricky to figure out if the property is subject to that federal ban, so we encourage tenants to reach out to us to help them figure that out.
Yeah, they may need some help to navigate through that. Mike, let's ask you, what resources have policymakers put in place thus far to help people avoid eviction or homelessness?
Well, let me say first, thanks for the invitation today, and thank you to the whole team at TMJ4 for really sharing relevant and useful information to your viewers during a troubling and scary time. It's just essential that people realize that help is available. And you don't have to go through these terrible situations alone without any assistance. So policymakers have been responsive. At the federal level, the CARES Act was passed almost 2 months ago, or over 2 months ago, that provides billions of dollars of relief, not only in the form of expanded unemployment or individual cash payments, but there is money that's filtering down to states, counties, and cities that can be used to help people who are struggling with the housing insecurity situation or homelessness. At the state level, the eviction moratorium that was talked about is obviously ending next week, and that was a good stopgap for 2 months for people who are struggling. And the governor announced earlier this week a $25 million rent assistance program that could provide up to $3,000 per person for those who are eligible and meet the income eligibility. And we expect that to start up sometime in early June. And the state also created a loan program for businesses, which we understand will include landlords who will qualify. And then at the local level, counties and cities across the state have ramped up their public health efforts, obviously, in response to COVID-19 and their housing programs, which is all good to see. And they have an opportunity to do even more with CARES Act dollars that are coming through emergency solutions grants and CDBG, community development block grants. And they also have $102 million allocated to the city of Milwaukee and $62 million allocated to Milwaukee County that can be used for more of this kind of work, for providing legal assistance, providing mediation, helping people get through these situations. And there's certainly a lot more that we can be doing.
Yeah, and we just need to remember, like you said, help is out there. Thank you, Mike. Now, Colleen, we know the process to collect unemployment in the state has been really slow for a lot of people. Some people still haven't gotten their money. There's concern also about racking up those late fees if you're a tenant. Can you give us some information about that?
Absolutely. It's critical for tenants to understand that late fees cannot be imposed during the period of either moratorium, either the state issued moratorium or the federal one. And that's the case whether or not it's included as a provision in your lease. So what that means in particular is that late fees can't be imposed under the guidelines through August. So as long as September. So when September rent is due by our calculation, that's when late fees can be imposed again.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Colleen. Mike, what could or should policymakers be doing really in your mind to help navigate through all this? You mentioned a lot is being done, but what more do you see that needs to be on the horizon?
Sure. Yeah, as I mentioned, the city and county have millions of dollars in CARES Act dollars that could and should be appropriated for helping people struggling with housing insecurity. And there's a lot of other things that are considerations we should be thinking about right now. What sorts of programs can we create, like transitional jobs programs to get people back to work? At the state level, what kind of tax reform can we do to get more money into people's pockets through things like the homestead credit or adding supplements to the earned income credit or the child credit? And there's obviously opportunities to add resources for people to access things that can help them through situations like this, legal representation and mediation. There certainly is going to need to be more dollars available for rent assistance to help people pay their rent if they can't meet their rent, to avoid a bout of homelessness. And there are programs that have been very successful, including ones run by us at Community Advocates and others across the state during the Great Recession that helped tens of thousands of people avoid homelessness. And then, more dollars. It's sort of more dollars, but more dollars for emergency shelters, for transitional housing, and for programs that help people find and stay in permanent housing so that they can have an affordable, quality, and stable situation. And again, help is available, and I think anybody who's struggling in any way should reach out and try to find help through any of these programs that are available. But there is certainly a great need, as you talked about, with the rise in the unemployment claims is just one indicator of how much people are struggling right now. And there is a lot more that policymakers could and should be doing.
Yeah, we just saw the numbers there for people to reach out. I can't imagine, Mike or Colleen, going through this alone. It almost seems like you need a legal background to fill out some of these forms. So, Colleen, what's available for tenants? How can you help at the Legal Aid Society?
An excellent question, Charles. The Legal Aid Society has an excellent housing team that's prepared to both advise and provide legal representation for tenants. You can contact us in a multitude of ways. We previously, pre-pandemic, had a walk-in intake clinic every Monday and Wednesday from 1:30 to 3:30. That's temporarily closed, but we certainly look forward to reopening that. In the meantime, you can access our online intake form. You can contact, and that's at www.lasmilwaukee.com. It's a very straightforward, straight up form for tenants to complete, and we'll promptly return information, pick up the phone and return a call to you. You can reach us on our telephone number, which is 414-727-5300. There are also other resources in the community, legal resources that includes Mediate Milwaukee, which tenants, I would encourage to contact for any dispute with their landlord, either before or after court. They can be reached at 414-939-8800. Community Advocates has many excellent programs, one of which is their renter hotline, particularly now during the pandemic, and that number is 414-276-4646. Legal Action of Wisconsin is another a public interest law firm in town, similar to Legal Aid. And certainly we encourage people to, if they have a cooperative landlord, to talk to that, have ongoing lines of communication and talk to their landlord about their situation and ability, if they have a cooperative landlord, to pay something. And I think everyone is trying to work together here, and that's certainly a good starting point if you have a cooperative landlord that you're dealing with.
The important thing is to get that conversation going.
Absolutely.
Yes. And know there's help out there, and you can get help to navigate it yourself. We appreciate you both for being with us this afternoon. And we have all this on our website, so don't worry if you didn't get all that information. Those numbers Colleen was giving you. So here's your Rebound rundown. The eviction moratorium will end Tuesday, May 26th. That day, landlords can begin the process of evictions. They still need to give tenants notice, however, Charles.
You will not be charged a late fee or penalty for paying your rent late. If you need financial assistance, there are local and state resources available. Find those at tmj4.com/rebound. All right, we talked about the rights you have as a tenant, but what about rights for landlords and the moratorium on evictions when that is lifted? That is next. All right, welcome back. Right now on the Rebound Milwaukee, the eviction moratorium is ending in just a few days. But what does that mean for landlords?
Joining us today to talk more about this is Tim Ballerina with Affordable Rental Associates. Thank you for taking time to be with us, Tim.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you own and manage hundreds of units in Milwaukee, and from a landlord's perspective, I would imagine you really don't want to see evictions. That's one of the last things you want to see happen.
Yeah, that's correct. It might surprise some people, but landlords do not benefit when they have to evict. Nobody benefits. Landlords lose rent, and there's often damages, and it's costly to tenants as well as it impacts their future ability to rent, as well as disrupting their families and their family life. Landlords need their tenants to succeed, and tenants also need their landlords to succeed so that there's available housing. If a tenant can pay their rent, there will be no eviction crisis. Governor Evers just announced the $25 million Wisconsin Rent Assist program. That's going to go a long ways to making it possible to avert many of these problems. And we don't really anticipate a large number of evictions immediately following the lifting of the moratorium. Over 85% of the tenants are current on their rent for April and May. Most tenants have received stimulus money and are receiving enhanced federal unemployment benefits. But as could be expected, some tenants who had the ability to pay took advantage of the moratorium. So there'll be some problems, but we don't anticipate a large amount of problems.
Tim, give me a sense of what is that conversation like with tenants? When does it begin? Is it at the end of the month, beginning of the month?
A tenant should have that conversation as soon as they realize that they're going to have a problem. The sooner you talk to your landlord, the easier it is to have a pleasant conversation. Owners don't want to evict. You have to go in and prep the unit, put the unit up for rent. If they can make it work for the current tenant, that is the best answer.
Tim, are you worried about how the rest of the year looks like? There's a lot of uncertainties with this pandemic. What's going through your mind as you talk to your tenants and you see that we're still in an economic doldrum right now?
Well, I'm absolutely concerned about the rest of the year. I think that unless something dramatically changes, August and September will be far worse than what we're seeing today. The enhanced federal unemployment will have expired by then. The stimulus money will be long spent. And the employers that are keeping their people employed through the use of the SBA payroll protection program grants will no longer be required to keep those people employed. Any substantial disruption in rent collections will cause an impact on not only the property owners, but on future rental housing cost. Milwaukee and other communities have already furloughed employees due to COVID and the impact on the budget. And we're not even really at the beginning of what we're going to see, at least as far as housing goes. When you look at 2008, there was a huge impact on Milwaukee's housing, and that we're still feeling that impact today. The city ended up foreclosing on hundreds of properties. Many of those were vandalized to the point they had to be razed. The city did not collect property taxes. And this will only get worse. And with the 2008 housing crisis, people could see in advance that housing was going up at a rate that was unsustainable, the cost of housing. This came about all of a sudden. Nobody could have predicted it.
No, you're absolutely right about Tim, that this was so hard to predict, and we're still in it, and we appreciate you coming in and at least telling us about getting that conversation going so that tenants and landlords could talk about the months to come. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, Tim Ballerina, Affordable Rental Associates, thank you for being with us this afternoon. All of the information you heard about today from renters and landlords is available right now on our website. Just go to tmj4.com/rebound. Click on Making Ends Meet, and you can get that info. Up next, Tuesday's deadline not only impacts renters and landlords, but also homeowners. What you can do if you're struggling to pay your mortgage. Next. Welcome back. The governor's order on eviction moratoriums also banned foreclosure suits, but those will be allowed as of Tuesday.
There is help available to homeowners, though. Under the CARES Act, you can delay your mortgage payment for as long as a year. Those with federally backed mortgages are not required to pay back a lump sum at the end of the forbearance. But some homeowners with private lenders are. So it's up to you to contact your lender and ask how the process works. Nothing is automatic.
The company 6050 created a website for homeowners to access help. And now it developed a letter that you can specifically request to delay your payments under the federal stimulus. For a link to that letter, head to tmj4.com/rebound. You can click on Making Ends Meet. We'll be right back.
So, Carol, the big takeaway out there is that there is help to pay rent.
Yes, and we have posted contact information for each of these places on our website, tmj4.com/rebound.
We want to thank everyone for joining us today on the Rebound Milwaukee.
We have another newscast coming up at 4.